got my notes pulled up. Oh, do we want the music?
No, it's fine. I'm used to seeing the 3, 2, 1, so I was like, where do I look for that?
Well, now it's 11, 12, 13.
But now you're actually the dictator of the podcast. So also, whose chair is squeaking like
that's
it's
my chair.
Animal.
Is it squeaking a lot?
It just every time you move, like
all right, I'm gonna switch chairs actually real quick. You roll in, and I'll be right back.
Or we can wait.
You're listening to the Janchi Show, hosted by 3 Korean American adoptees diving headfirst into what it means to be adopted, Korean, American, and more. And now, here's your hosts, Nathan, Patrick, and KJ.
Welcome back to the Janchi Show. I decided to roll in, and Patrick walked straight out of the room. So my name is KJ, here with Nathan, and technically present Patrick, but he has a squeaky chair, and I thought it was going to take him less time. Like, I thought he just had another chair in his room. He did not have another chair in his room, so he just walked straight out. So now I am opening the show with filling for time. Nathan,
and he has no clue what you're saying.
Yeah,
oh, shh, he's back.
Awkward silence. Hey, buddy.
Hey, how's it going?
This is a lower chair. I had to make some mic adjustments.
That's fine.
Well, good. Camera now you're at our height.
Yeah. Welcome to our level.
Yeah.
So weird.
We can see eye to eye.
The air is so much hotter down here.
What did I miss?
I was just filling for time. How are you guys doing?
I'm great. How are you guys doing?
I am also doing pretty okay.
I'm dying of allergies, so it's going to be a fun dance with the mute-unmute button so that Patrick doesn't have to edit out a bunch of sneezes and whatnot.
Good.
I'll leave
How's
them
that
in.
Heat going out for you guys? I mean, it's been really hot out here, but tomorrow all of a sudden it drops down like 20 degrees.
How hot has it been out there?
90s.
I only know that it's been like 110 in California.
Yeah. So California has been real bad. Here it's been in the mid 90s, like 90 to 95. And
we're out of that finally. We're like high 70s, low 80s finally. So we're like, we've been trending down. So I've been turning the air off when I've been working from home, and it's been nice just leaving the door open for all the animals to come in, I guess.
Lucky you.
All of the animals to come and live in your chair.
Welcome.
And that's weather with the Janchi Show.
Yeah,
we didn't even hear how the weather was in Texas.
It's real hot in Texas.
It's hot. It's always hot. We already knew that.
Okay.
Oh, I saw a headline that because of all the storms and the floods and whatnot, we have extra large mosquitoes coming through. So that's fun. And the Instagram post was just like a picture of a giant mosquito, and I was like, "This is terrible. I don't want this in my newsfeed." But I guess it's nice to be informed. But woof.
The way you said that, I totally thought it was a combination of mojito and
squeegee,
something else. I was like,
wow.
Why are you talking about drinks? And then,
like, what is a mosquito?
Yeah, I was like, that sounds good.
Moscow Mule.
I want one
it's
of
a
those.
Moscow Mule and a mojito.
Yeah.
No, he's talking about us being the drink of the mosquito.
Oh, well, yes.
I was like, did you just call yourself a tall drink of water? Sir?
And you know I'm a tall drink of water, maybe a medium.
Yeah, you don't have to like rub in your height, all right? Just because you're down at our level.
I apologize.
It's fine.
Profusely.
Well, fellas, this is in our first episode recording in the hundreds. How did you feel about our 100th episode, the release, the day of? I think both of you put some reflections out there. I had good intentions to put a reflection out there. Did not get to it, but yeah. On the other side of triple digits, how are you feeling?
Good.
I was going to let you go first.
No, I was going to say, I wish I felt a little better for the recording. I was fairly under the weather.
Oh, you mean physically?
I know. I thought you meant that it was bad.
No.
Okay. I was like, dang, dude. Okay.
Hot take.
Coming in hot.
Yeah. I felt good about the episode. We didn't really even talk about how we were going to do the episode. And Jerry just rolls right in with that Dear Asian American intro. And it was just kind of, it threw me off guard. And then, we were asking questions, and it was I think it went well. I really liked that format in a way. As we were discussing, it was kind of like all three of us being interviewed again by Jerry, but this time kind of answering the same questions together. So I like that, and even though we didn't talk about it, I think it turned out great.
That's what we do on our show. We freestyle. Sometimes we throw it to somebody who comes on and they just take it away. I really liked it. I, on the other side of 100, am feeling good about it, I think. Kind of feeling like how I reflected before. I'm just a little bit all over the place almost. It's kind of feels surreal in a way, just because it feels like 100 is a lot. And I don't know if we talked about it being a lot. I know we talked about time and it feeling like a long time ago from when we started the show. But I'm just feeling like
the mountain of episodes on your chest.
Like, yeah, this is a lot of episodes. The weight of all of the episodes. Yeah.
Yeah.
Even though I wasn't there for 3 of them, I think. So 97 episodes. Yeah, I mean, I feel good. I liked that it felt like we were a guest on Dear Asian Americans. I like that he opened with that email, because I had completely forgotten that he had reached out to all of us in that way. I thought it was more he individually just sent us one calendar invite and then we showed up, but we did have that kind of preamble that he's shared in the email. But yeah, I'm excited about what we are going to be going to and doing here coming forward. I think we have some good guests and stuff lined up. So I'm excited about this side of 100. But coming out of it, I feel accomplished in a way that makes me ready to take on this next challenge of whatever the next 100 episodes might be.
Yeah, for sure. I think from my own reflections and musings, this side of 100, yeah, I'm excited for what the future holds. I'm excited for how the show continues to grow and change. I think we've got a good, strong sense of who we are, who we want to be. And I think as we continue in our own journeys, it's going to be just exciting to experience and exciting to see, just how we continue to evolve, how we continue to try new things and do new things. And hopefully the show continues to grow. I don't take for granted for a second any of our listeners, or I mean, just the ways that people come out and support us. And I think being able to see some of that validation, not just to hear it from Jerry's perspective and like be reminded of the things that had happened in the past, but on the day, that was really meaningful to me. And I wrestle with like this thing of like, I feel like 100. This is like a fake celebration. Like, it's nice because it's a round number, but I'm very much in the nothing is real, everything is fake. So like that kind of headspace. So I'm just like, yeah, this is a fake thing. But then I think it does still hold weight, and I was glad for other people pulling me into reality when I am in not reality or surreality. What I talk good, it's fine.
Sure, I get it, but I do think something that you said about especially Jerry coming on and being open and vulnerable about the ways that he had kind of maybe failed the community in the past to be more inclusive or accepting of adoptees, and or at least seeing them, validating their existence in the past, I thought was really, really powerful. And I had a couple people who have reached out to talk about that specific point. And for me personally, as I move forward in this journey, especially with what we do on the show and what I do personally outside of that, that's kind of an extension of that, is to have more of those conversations with people outside of our community, because those are the people who are going to help us make the changes that we want to see, not only the narrative, but structurally, institutionally. So to have Jerry come on and very candidly be open about those types of things, I thought was really powerful and really important for our audience to hear. And I think it was important for us to hear as well. So, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think too, it's the thing of, like, as I gain a fuller understanding of Korean culture, especially I think of the time period that Jerry was talking about, like, was closer to the first wave than the second wave of Korean culture coming across the ocean and all that kind of stuff. And so, but I think that also means it's closer to Korea being a liberated nation. And so there is like probably an ingrown sense of pride and like needing to protect what is ours, because Korea as a nation had been in that sense of trying to protect what was ours in an underground way, and then finally loud and proud way not that long ago. You know what I mean? Like, so in the 80s, that was only 30 years removed, and maybe not even that much. I don't know. I mean, like, you know what I mean? So like, I think that there is like, but as adoptees, we don't have any of that experience or that knowledge or that history with our own culture. So all we feel is rejection, and we don't know why. So we just chalk it up to, all right, whatever, you know, and then either we bounce back or bounce away. Right. But hearing that other side of it, and then, I mean, hearing Jerry's personal reflection, but I think broadly, sociologically as a society, as, you know, Korean Americans, knowing that too, and then like to come from that place, but then also be in America, and then only a couple generations deep at most, then you like definitely feel that because you're still trying to find your place in America. You know what I mean? Like it just becomes like that context helps me be more gracious to non-adoptees who don't understand why rejection is so like hard, almost fatal sometimes, you know, to our ability to socialize or our ability to, you know, feel like we're involved. So, and I'm excited, I think, to try to bridge that gap as we move forward as a show, because I think like for adoptees, it's easy to fall into the trap of like, oh, we hang out with other adoptees and you just like kind of whine about like all these things that we've experienced, these like tough life situations, not to make light of tough life situations, but, you know, like that we commiserate together. But actually, if we can bridge that gap, then, and hear the other side of the story more often and have those conversations, then maybe we can all grow to be more gracious together, not just be like, you know, how non-adoptees are, as if that's like a dismissal of that and we just shut that off completely, you know.
And the fact that the non-adoptees are listening to our stories as well.
Right, exactly. Like we do have that opportunity to amplify our side, but like, do we also like, can we encourage our side, the adoptee perspective, to keep our hearts open and to keep our hearts vulnerable and to be open to making these connections, you know, to have the courage to try and try and try again, even though it's like extra hard for us to do that.
Yeah, like Patrick said, I think it is important that both sides hear it. That the fact that we're, you know, telling our stories, and that adoptees hear it to feel, welcome, and to feel normalized, and to feel, you know, involved. Where the other side also gets to hear it, to see what we're going through. And I think I mean, we know that there's a lot of people that listen to the show that are not adoptees, or then, you know, their allies, their, you know, their family members, their friends. They're just people that we don't even know are listening to our show. And I think that's very important. I really,
you don't know every single one of our listeners personally.
Almost
Nathan
every
just
single
goes,
person.
Shouts out to this person. Shouts out to this person.
IP addresses. No, I'm kidding. So. No, I think it's really great, though. I really appreciate it anytime anyone, like I said, sends us an email, whether you're an adoptee or a non-adoptee. So, yes, thank you for that.
Or a half adoptee. I don't know if that exists, but
I don't think that exists.
That's fine.
That's probably like foster youth or former foster youth.
Adoptee adjacent,
maybe.
Like married to an adoptee, or...
That's true. Does not make you half adopted.
Parent or an adoptee.
Yeah, I don't think it works that way.
Adjacent. I don't know.
I just I'm trying to. So, well, one of the things that I'm working on personally, and one of the ways that I'm excited for the show to move forward, is to remove duality and replace it with plurality. And so, like, this is not a case where there kind of is like you're adoptee or non-adoptee, not like they're just it is or it isn't. So that is kind of a necessary duality, but in the places where we can have plurality, to even have my language reflect a plural sense, not just creating either ors and us's and thems, but actually how can we invite all people and be aware that there is a third, fourth, fifth, nth degree that I may not be aware of, but still want to have our show be a place for plurality, not just duality or just one or the other, you know?
I mean, it's just recognizing that there are so many, honestly, infinite amounts of experiences that can be had within the within not just our community, but any community. And so I agree. I think that's something I'm excited about doing on the show and practicing on the show, is being intentional with that language, and being intentional, hopefully, as we move forward with our guest selection. Well, not our guest selection, but the people that we have on the show to represent all the different intersectional identities and places and experiences that we come from, to broaden that narrative. Because at the end of the day, people who aren't adopted talk about and think about and operate in a way that's been institutionalized and ingrained within our society at large. Because a lot of adoptees will think about the adoption in the same way, in a very dual or binary way, in terms of it being good or bad. And so I just had this conversation today, as of this recording, with another adoptee about how it's hard for us, once you start to come out of the fog or start to come to terms, to have anything of like entertainment value. At least I found this to be an experience that doesn't just immediately trigger you. And it's like at any moment you can be triggered by a certain thing, that a scene that happens in a movie, a line, that a throwaway line in a book, just or in an article, in anything, a quote, whatever. Like, I feel like once your mind starts turning on a lot of these things, there's almost nothing that we can have. And it's because we're taught to think about adoption in such a single way, a singular way, or one or the other way, And so by having all of these different experiences and all of these different perspectives on the show, which I hope that we're doing and we can continue to do and do better, we can push back on that, because that's the only way we can do it.
What do you mean? Because I'm not sure I understand. Like, when you say a piece of pop culture that triggers something in you, like, what is that example piece of pop culture, and what is that thing that gets triggered in you as an adoptee who starts to wrestle with the fullness of what adoption is?
So it can be, honestly, at the end of the day, it can be anything that reflects your experience in a way that you're really not expecting. So for me, a really common, I'll actually use a really common one. So like
Lilo and Stitch.
No, I was going to say in the Avengers, where Thor is talking about Loki, and they're like, he just murdered 80 people or whatever. And he's like, well, he's adopted. So something like that, just a very simple joke, which is on its face, what nobody would ever be like, oh, that has no bearing on my life, and it's funny. I'm going to laugh at this because ha ha ha, that means he's bad. That explains his bad behavior or whatever. I don't know if that's how people are thinking about it generally. But I think once you start to think about yourself as an adoptee, or think about that in a different or more critical way, something like that can be very triggering. I think there's a lot more complex ways that comes across, like maybe in something that's meant to be purely comedic coming across that way, but also something that's come across dramatically. Like, the only example I have in my mind is one that's not my own, so I don't want to share it on the show because it was relayed to me, and I don't want to misrepresent that experience. But that's what's made me think about that a lot lately, about how those things can trigger you as an adoptee that you would really not expect, and how it makes it seem like our ability to have or be able to consume media in different forms gets hindered, or can be hindered in a way, because of that mindset and that new perspective. So by sharing all of the different types of perspectives that we can with people who are outside of our community, hopefully we can push back on that, where we see less of those things, or seeing those things done mindfully and intentionally. So I don't know if that answers your question or makes it any more clear, but
that definitely helps. Yeah.
And you're not just talking about pop culture, though. You're talking about
literally
physical,
it could be in anything. Yes,
visual or
like when you
experience.
Go to Burger King's and you order the chicken fingers, and you're like, "What? They're adopted?" And I'm
honestly, honestly, yeah. But yeah, like even just
be,
hearing
chicken fries.
Sure. I mean, you could.
They're
have
not real fries, but they're still called fries.
So, an example of that for me is, driving across the country. Usually it was never a big deal because I'm just driving, right? But this time when I did it on the way to Wisconsin recently, I saw all those billboard signs about adopting instead of abortion, and there was so many of them, and I know that they've been there a while, and I know abortion is a huge hot topic of discussion and debate, but the fact that I'm seeing these billboards now, and the narrative behind that, that was kind of triggering for me, because I don't know. It's just, I know back in the day I would have ignored it, but now I'm like, man,
I
there's so
get
much.
I get it, and that's interesting too because like in both examples that the two of you provided, adoption has been held up as like an incredibly positive thing and also an incredibly negative thing.
Right.
Where like adoption is like it's the best choice, the right alternative to whatever.
Right.
To abortion, as if it's like somehow whatever. Anyways, so there's like it is held up as like an echelon of goodness and purity and wholeness and life and love and happiness, whatever. And then also the butt of the joke or is like, or even not even if it doesn't even have to be a joke, but just adoption being like, oh well, he's adopted, or like
Right.
like you look different, and so like we always said that this sibling was adopted, even though they're
right.
biological.
The justification for whatever.
Even again in Lilo and Stitch, Lilo is an alien. Wait, Stitch is an alien. Lilo is not an alien. I know that movie. It's fine. It's literally been like easily a decade, but whatever. Like, so even like aliens, you're like, oh yeah, you're different, but I'm gonna like it. Just yeah. Oh man, the way it's just like I'm gonna reach past your differences and welcome. You know what I mean? Like,
right.
So it's like at most, it's like the most. It's not this, but whatever. It's like the holiest, most good, most pure thing, most unconditional thing that you could do. And also, if you are an adoptee, though, you are like the odd duck out. You are the alien. You are the screw up. You are the one who apparently kills 80 million people. If you're also, like a god of whatever
Mischief.
That realm is. Yeah.
Asgard.
A god of Asgard, yeah. So whatever, like it comes with like it's just such a thing where for an adoptee you're like, oh, I can never win, and that again just so mine is like reeling right now, just because of like I've been listening to this series on a podcast called Straight White American Jesus called It's in the Code, and it just like decodes Christian language or whatever, and like part of it is like just the idea of like if. A whole lot of things, but like it just I can't get away from this parallel of adoption. If you're an adoptee, you're just like the worst kind of person, and it is like if it weren't for just like the blessing and the unconditional love and the whatever of your adopter, then like you would be killing 80 million people as a god of mischief, and you would be like the worst kind of
be running on the streets.
Exactly, whatever that is. Yeah, and so there is no winning. And I'm like, oh, this is literally exactly how Christians talk about sinners and Jesus. So that's a fun thing for my brain to mess with later. Not on the show, because it's going to be me doing it. So, yeah.
I guess the best example for me would have been just any old Disney movie. You can read literally the adoption themes into all of them and see how harmful and just kind of, or how we would actually think about this now, because it's like in all of these mediums, that's what's happening. That's what you're reading. That's what you're seeing. And honestly, I think this conversation is in the epitome of the growth that we have made over 100 episodes. Because
we did it.
Think back,
we're done, everyone. Thank you. Goodbye forever.
Our first 3 episodes, we were not having any kind of conversations like this. We actually weren't even free talking. I feel like it was very, very structured.
Oh, it was very structured. Like very, scripted almost. We were like,
almost
okay, we're going to do this.
It was supposed to be introductory, though. I mean, we were supposed to find out about each other and not. We were
definitely finding our podcasting legs.
The deepness of adoption. But yeah,
I like the way that KJ described it. That we were essentially just listened to each other's Dear Asian Americans episodes and then just repeated the same thing, but a little bit more.
Yeah. Well, it wasn't even that. We were just like, you all listened to the Dear Asian Americans episode. Anyways, so if you didn't, here's what Nathan's story is. Nathan, I have questions for you. Like we didn't even let each other tell our own stories.
So I guess before we talk about those episodes and dig into that a little bit, I guess my one question is, do you have any memories or recollections about what you were feeling as we were recording these first few episodes? And do you remember recording our episode 0 tag and then all separately
the trailer,
and then putting it together? Because we scripted it out and then we read off. I'm just remembering this now. And we just recorded it all separately, and then KJ put it all together. That was hilarious.
I remember my first, what was it? My first impression of the trailer when it came out was like, oh my God, this sounds cheesy, but yet professional. Like it felt
cheesy, yet
cheesy in a
professional.
professional way.
in a professional commercial kind of way. Like it felt like, yeah, this sounds like it would
sounds
be
produced.
an ad. It
Right.
sounds produced, but it sounds like good, even though somewhat cheesy because we're like kind of advertising ourselves. It was just like,
yet satisfying.
yeah.
Hilarious.
But I was impressed. And I remember just even hearing the theme song when you first came out with that, KJ. I was like, whoa, where did you buy this? And you're like, no, I wrote it.
Nah, bro. I made
this.
it.
I was so impressed.
I do
That's
remember
funny.
getting that theme song. Those theme song. Honestly, you went through a couple versions.
Did I?
think. I think you sent us maybe like 2 or 3.
I think he only lowered some of the sounds, and it was very similar.
Okay, well, he just
It's
made
very
it,
funny.
and it was a one take.
I think it was a one take. That's
One
how good
hit
he
wonder.
is.
A one take.
One take wonder.
One take wonder. Exactly.
It's funny.
I don't know.
Yeah, I just remember. I remember being super nervous because I was like, "What if they're bad talkers?" And then
put it
I'm
on
pretty
us
sure.
immediately.
Well, no, that's why I was like,
Understandable.
specifically for the trailer, I was like, "What if we don't have good like chemistry? What if they're bad talkers? What if like all those kinds of things? Whatever." Because I think like if you're willing to go on a podcast, chances are you like back yourself to be a good talker.
Sure.
But then you're like, and then I'll find someone like I think in early days of even when I was conceiving of a podcast, I was like, yeah, I could probably like do a podcast about this, and then I'll find someone who I vibe with to be my color commentator or whatever that is. Not like now I have 2 additional co-hosts and we have to figure out this dynamic. Yeah, so I was just very nervous for like the feel of the podcast just because I was such a fan of podcasts at the time and was listening to so many of them and whatever. Yeah,
thank you for
and
not
so I was
leaving.
just like, oh man.
Yeah, thanks
and then
for
I was
sticking
like,
through it.
what if it's good? Or like, is it going to be good enough? And I distinctly remember saying early, and this still holds true. If y'all did not have professional microphones, I probably would have just been like, no, I'm not doing this.
That would have been tough.
I don't care how good the content is. I'm not doing
Mhm.
this.
Yeah, I think you were pretty adamant about that up front. Was high production value that we needed to
Yeah.
do that, and I think
went out
that having
first
a
day.
microphone was kind of a requirement.
Yeah,
I think we kind of pushed that before we started recording. Was to get
And
a
as I
microphone.
recall, that because it was the beginning of the pandemic,
Yeah.
certain mics were hard to get.
Oh, mics were hard to get. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. I remember I had to buy mine. Like I think I got it on eBay or something like that. So
That's really funny.
yeah.
The timing, incredible.
And now I'm running with the cheapest microphone of the 3 of us. It's fine.
I think that I shared your nerves definitely about like the quality of the show and how we
Yeah.
vibed, because as a fan of like Nathan talked about on 100 how he hadn't really listened to podcasts prior to starting ours, and I listened to a lot of podcasts. I felt like before.
Actually,
and
Nathan,
so,
when you said that, you were like, I don't even know. Do people listen to podcasts? I was like, do people listen to podcasts? Are you kidding me?
But I just remember thinking similarly, like, I just want this to sound like I would pick this off of the search list,
Yeah.
I just want it to sound like an actual show. And I've always not been a fan of my own voice, even when I was doing my own music stuff way back in the day. Like, I was not a fan of that, of just like hearing myself back. And I think that was one of the things I struggled with the most and getting over with the most, because I didn't necessarily think I was a good talker. I was terrified to go on Dear Asian Americans and have that conversation with Jerry. And again, like I talked about in 100, like it was the safety I felt with him, I think, that allowed me to go and do that. So to think that we were going to sit here every week and talk, and then I have to hear myself back again, because obviously I was going to listen to those first episodes, was pretty terrifying. But I will say, listening back to them now, I'm surprised I stuck with it, because it seems these first 3 seem so formulaic in a way that I'm like, this kind of doesn't sound that good. But a lot of people have said our first 3 episodes are some of their favorite episodes. The episodes that we're talking about us. So for the listener, I think Nathan gave us the assignment, or maybe it was KJ, of listening to our first 3 episodes and talking about them after we hit 100. And so I think we're going to go ahead and break that down a little bit now. I will admit, I only listened to KJ's episode because I thought we were only doing
to
one.
your episode.
Well,
But,
I broke my I do no work on the show rule and listened to all 3 of them and started getting into my own Dear
Overachiever.
Asian Americans.
Okay,
So.
well now I have to. So I have to throw it to you.
But I have no notes.
So having listened to all three, what are your thoughts about those first 3 episodes and what we were doing at that time? What? I don't know. What is your reaction to all that?
Okay, so here's the inside baseball of the podcasting, like how we started this, because I think especially. Oh my gosh, I was looking at your name and it says Jerry Wan, but your name is not Jerry Wan, it's Patrick. Because Patrick and I were fans of podcasts, like we had some sense of like what shows were. And I think what I was balancing as we were like crafting what the show would be was I was like, okay, so here are these, like, I'm a fan of these really long running podcasts where people just vibe and flow or whatever. And I also like, I've listened to some interview ones or whatever, but like, so I was trying to balance, like, how do we get to episode 300 level starting out, you know,
Right.
that kind of thing. And we needed some structure. And so it was funny. I don't know why we decided to do this because it's very confusing listening to it now. But I went back and our intro is like we're beta testing the form of the show because we knew we were going to have guests on eventually, but we didn't know, like, are we good at interviewing and asking questions or any of that? But like, so the structure of the show was, I think I decided to just do a cold open because, and I don't even remember if there is a cold open on the first ones. The cold open, intro music, and then we do an introduction to preview what's going to happen, and then we throw to an interview, which is still ourselves. And like,
Yeah,
when you listen to all 3 of them, I'm like, did we record the intros separately, but the interviews were all I was like, how did we do this? Because they're definitely like different, but it's real weird. So we have the intro and then we throw to the interview and then we do the food thing. But I was just like, this is like, conceptually it's a great idea, but like in how we actually did it for the first 3 episodes was like the most ridiculous, unnecessary thing. But because we were absolute babies, I think we needed that amount of like structure and safety to kind of figure everything out. So that was wild.
That is funny that is what we did, because when we were talking in the episode, it was like, oh, we're talking about the episode like we already did the interview.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's exactly how we've always done it that way. But that was also how Dear Asian Americans did it too. Jerry would do an intro after he would record the interview. And so I think we were taking that structure from him. Just
well, it's really common for like a lot of interview shows.
Yeah. And our intros were always really short. I mean, I don't think it was until later that our intros never got longer until I want to say the 20s or 30s.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then we started actually getting into a little more discussion. But and I remember just the other thing was I thought the intro should, in my opinion at the time, is like, yeah, we should make this intro an intro for the guest in a way, like, for in case they didn't say anything about who they were, we should talk about what they've done, have accomplished, or things that they might not have said in the interview. But yeah, that is definitely different. I mean, but it's worked.
How short it was, and then the intro felt scripted too. Like, I was like, did we write this down and then say it and then record it? I was just like, that made me. I was dying laughing when I listened to that. I'm like, this is hilarious, and I don't know how I was like. I listened to this and was like, this is great. But I think you're right. I think we needed those bumpers up to allow us to find our footing, because even in those interviews, I feel like you can see that we're trying to like navigate into those lanes. And we don't know. We don't know where the lanes are yet.
In one of the episodes, you just were like, "Oh yeah, I'm excited to like not just be the interjector," because we were like, even we were trying to figure out like, okay, so who leads the interview, who just interjects, and like what's the timing like, because Zoom and all that kind of stuff, and but we were just like, this person is the interjector, this person is the lead, this person, whatever, and I was like, oh man, this is wild. So.
That is why we did it that way, though, wasn't it? So we each got a chance to lead and see how that was. And then we also, so we could start a rotation, because we knew we were going to have guests after those first episodes. I forgot about that. Yeah.
And then the interjector.
The interjector. I think I'm still the interjector, to be honest.
You were.
All right, KJ, you said you took some notes. So
no, I did not. I said I did not take any notes.
He just said
no notes. I just
notes.
listened to everything. I can give you broad strokes ideas, but yeah, I did not.
I took notes, but then I deleted them after our recording of the 100th episode, because I didn't think we were actually going to go back. But
why would you?
I did ask you. Well, I asked you a couple questions from that already during the 100th episode when we were recording it. It was. and I can remember a couple other things that I said, but mainly my question, I guess, which I can go to both of you, is what has expanded in your minds or in your lives, I guess, since those first episodes, and it's very, very like on in relation to adoption. So,
what has expanded in my mind?
What have you explored?
What has
more
wrinkled
of,
my brain?
I guess, as far as adoption. I think it was because we at the time were talking. You were very new into the adoption world,
Sure.
Patrick, and so I was just going to try to summarize what you have jumped into since then. And I mean, I kind of know some of the answers.
You should summarize. Try to summarize your
everything that I've
adoption
done?
journey.
In the last 2 years.
I don't know.
Like, summarize.
For that.
Emphasis on summary.
Summarize. Yeah.
I mean, when I started this, it was literally a zero. I had nothing. I started from scratch, and in almost 2.5, 3 years, I've went from. So the easiest way to summarize it is, I went from realizing I was rejecting my identity, not only as an Asian and Korean American, but as an adoptee, to reclaiming that, those identities and that part of myself, and then fully accepting myself as those things, just recently. So that's kind of been the trajectory of my path, literally going from still probably subconsciously thinking of myself as a white person and not thinking of myself as Asian, to being like, nah, I'm Asian as hell, even though you might not think it. And I love it. And like, this is my life. This is who I am. And like, and finally seeing myself as that. So, I mean, that's the quickest way to summarize it. It seems kind of anticlimactic after you guys just hyped it up so much to try and summarize it. But that means, that's just me saying that I talk better now than I used to be in those first few episodes. Because I used to be the rambler too.
What resources did you use to accomplish that?
Oh gosh,
the Janchi Show.
Janchi Show.
That's the number one resource.
The number one resource was just coming on this show every week.
I legitimately think that's probably
true
for me.
Honestly,
like, just
because it kept me in it too.
Yeah, and
like,
you have to keep talking about it. You can't even just like passively listen.
And I think that's something that I've learned on this journey is like the consistent, like, I think in anything that you do, like, consistency is going to be key for something to stick. And honestly, being part of the show and not doing a solo show where you have a lot of easy ways to go out of it and never come back, to know that I can just walk away and then like never talk to you two again and do it like that, knowing that I had these tethers and like people I didn't want to let down. Specific, not even necessarily our community, our audience, but you two and Jerry, made it so that I had to stay in it. And I think had I not had that, who knows? Because I think I talked about it on a lot of the early episodes. It's like I've always been kind of a waffler, especially when things got super tough or became too much. It would be a little bit easy for me to talk myself into leaving. It's like I can go to another job, or I can whatever else. I was going to make a school thing, but it's like, you ain't going back there for now. So you're not going to do that again. You put it in your mind.
You have had 3 jobs while you've been on the show, right?
Yes,
4.
I
4.
have.
3?
That's a great point. Anyways.
Thank you for sticking with us.
This is on my LinkedIn profile. This is my longest running job over the course of those 3. So that's hilarious. So resources, I mean, a lot of books. I just posted a TikTok, because that's another part of the journey. Went from no TikToks to some TikToks.
Also, TikTok went from non-existent to existent.
That's very true as well. So books, those ones that I referenced, like Adopted Territory, Invisible Asians, To Save the Children of Korea, those 3 specifically from the jump were really, really important. The works that J-Ron has done, the works that Dr. Amanda Baden has done, just conversating with Sarah Parkdahl and having the privilege to get to know her and pick her brain and have her share resources with me, been really important. Clubhouse, and finding community
you were doing
there
that for a while.
Yeah, finding community there, and really that was like the first time that I really started to get outside of the Korean adoptee community to a broader Asian adoptee community. And then through that and through like utilizing Instagram and sharing my story there, going out even further into what it means to be like an adoptee in an overarching sense, just outside of my ethnic and racial identities. And so a lot of that. And then I will honestly say a lot of support from Jerry to continue to explore and push myself in like an entrepreneurial sense, and maybe not necessarily like starting a business or what have you, but more so betting on myself and believing in myself that I would be able to do these things. And honestly, without that, I wouldn't have gotten to the point where I started to actually see myself for who I was, and then had that kind of epiphany moment in New York where I kind of felt all of that, that weight of kind of disappointment and rejection kind of wash off me a little bit, and I was able to start accepting myself. So I don't know if that answered your resource question too much, but it's kind of a whole confluence of things.
No, I mean, yes, that's essentially what I expected you to say in a way, was the readings. I had forgotten about the Clubhouse, actually. I don't think I've been on Clubhouse since the last time I was on there with you. So
I opened Clubhouse a while ago, and it was just like marketing jabronis, and I was like, I don't want to be here. It's fine.
That's probably who all's using it. It's like, we just gotta sell these products.
Like, how to 5x your business, but like that I don't need this in my life.
You're only speaking to employees that work for the same company as you. Why are we disparaging Clubhouse?
Have you? What would you say your journey has been from the beginning?
I actually do, even though we were just making fun of it, I do want to shout out my time on Clubhouse, because I think if it weren't for that, I wouldn't have really dug into the adoptee space at all outside of the show. But that was just like, it came at a time when I was taking in so much audio content that I just like ran out of things. And so I was like, oh, this is great. I can kind of be present and still doing my work or whatever. And so I just got connected with some really fantastic people there who were adoptees, who are adoptees. I didn't stop being adoptees. But I think for me, it's been a similarly full circle thing as I just did it again, as Patrick. Look at your face, not your name. Where
here. My eyes are right here.
My eyes are up here. Sorry. I don't know. Like, now I'm just like, I'm hella Asian, and I love being that. But it's gotten to the point now where I'm like, I realize that I feel incredibly Asian and live in incredibly white spaces, even though like the Dallas is diverse, and like I live in the burbs, and even though the burbs are kind of diverse, I live in a particularly white burb, and so it's like, it's just, or like I live in a burb where there aren't many Koreans, and like the burb over, that's where I got to go, so like I think I'm wrestling with, so now what? And I'm wrestling with how do I get into the places that I actually want to be? And that calls me into wrestling with systemic racism in a like boots on the ground, rubber meets the road kind of way. Like if I wanted to live in a place where I could be surrounded by people who think like me, who look like me, etc., that would require essentially some life sacrifice on my part, in my current life situation, for my children, for, whatever, or it would require me to be like uber wealthy. And I have only worked in nonprofits, and there's not a lot of money for employees at my level in nonprofits. So I don't know. I think generally like that's the thing that I'm wrestling with. I just started a book called Racism Without the Racists. It was originally published in 2003, but Racism Without Racists. And it's like the understanding of systemic racism, like kind of outside of like just like color discrimination, but how like the systems are. It's a good book. It's been around for a long time, but they just released a new edition, and I just heard about it. So like broadly, that's where I'm at. I think the major things that influenced to where I'm at were going through the Korean Culture Dictionary, going through Rise, reading books like Pachinko and Yolk, and like just like Asian American, Interior Chinatown. Those are three big like books, like specifically novels that really influenced me.
I do want to add on to mine now that you said Rise. I think going through that accelerator program with Rise Justice Labs was really formative for kind of the kickstarting me on my journey of more socially justice.
For the listener at home, 2 different Rises.
Yes, 2 different Rises. Yes. So that the book The Wake Up by Michelle Kim, those 2 things coincided right around the same time and really were formative for where my focus is now and kind of the stuff that I talk about. Also, Crying in H Mart was huge for me. I think that book really one of my favorite books in the last couple of years at least, and really left a mark on my journey and understanding and acceptance of myself as Asian American for sure. So tons of stuff. Honestly, just listening to y'all talk about it makes me think of many more things.
How far we've come.
Yes. A myriad more of things. Nathan, summarize your journey for us.
I mean, mine hasn't been as extensive, I think, as yours, Patrick.
I just got some Brahms recently.
Yeah, I went out, ate some hamburgers. No, I mean, granted, I think a lot of it is from the beginning. I was always into food, so I explored food more. I definitely bought more Korean cookbooks. I watched some cooking, Korean cooking shows. Got out some recipes. I've been going to H Mart a million times more than I ever did before. So definitely through food, I would say it was one of my resources. We all know I don't read as many books, but I have looked through, of course, the dictionary, I have listened to more podcasts.
The Korean Culture Dictionary.
The Korean Culture Dictionary.
Not just the regular.
I just went through Webster's.
I just missed my old encyclopedias.
Words and found out if there was any correlation to Korea.
Incredible.
K.
And of course, Instagram for me, I wasn't as big on Clubhouse. I only went on when you were on. But Instagram got me a little more involved for sure. I connected with more adoptees, more organizations, followed more people, and then of course did more writing about it last year for NAM. And then also looking into more of the conventions and the communities out there for adoptees. I mean, I already knew Facebook had, a multiple groups, but was never really feeling that. And I still haven't really felt those as popular mediums, but Instagram definitely was good. And then of course the show. So, and talking just people in general. So community in person, meeting people, local Korean adoptees, and just talking with people in conversations, sometimes non-adoptees, explaining to them what the show is about and why I do it, helped me develop and advance as well. And gave me just, purpose and why I'm doing the show and why we're all, learning from each other. So
I feel like if I had to summarize your journey really super briefly, it was I used to promote at Nowak Photo because I didn't want just anyone talking to me. So now I'm at @Nowak on Instagram. Slide into my DMs.
Hilarious.
Yeah, that is true. I was like,
that is very true.
Gonna be very professional and
arm's distance, and now.
But I mean, you have made a lot of growth in that time. You had shared more about your own story of adoption more publicly than either of us, I think, prior to this.
Yeah.
But then I mean, wasn't I don't think necessarily your forte. You're a photographer first and foremost. I think you tell your stories through photos. And I think what I really enjoyed seeing was when you did step out of your comfort zone and write so much and share your story your own way. That wasn't through the show and through the lens of us two being with you. You kind of got to be able to dictate and share your own story. And then to see you go from there and, like you said, really get involved in the community. You meet up with a lot more people, I think, than either the KJ or I do in person.
Yeah, just hang out with Jennifer.
Getting involved
with
no shade to
Jennifer, but
yeah. And I mean, you're
there's not
taking
a whole community.
What?
I said there's not a whole community. It's just me and Jennifer looking at that other community being over there and being like, should we go hang out with them? No, okay, we're just the two of us.
I mean,
then?
Patrick, you started the Indiana, group.
That's true.
So.
I've been not as great at showing up to the meetings as I have been before. So, but yeah, I mean, I think I've liked to watch your growth and your journey and seeing, because you do it a little bit more subtly and quietly than especially myself. And I think I think probably the same as KJ. I don't think you guys put it on blast as much as me, but
I have more
you've done a
time
lot of cool
constraints
things
as well.
So, and I think you're involved in a lot of stuff that has forward momentum that can continue to keep you in and keep you involved. So excited for you.
Yeah. We're all taking our different journeys. That's the great part about the show and how we've all done different things with it. And so I really, different things, but still parallel. Right. So.
Yeah. Well, and that's the way, that's the way it's always been. And I think that's what is so encouraging about our show is like we still get to be the fullness of who we are. We get to discover what that means, and we're still connected to each other and still committed to each other in a way that I think like does bring in plurality to our show, and not just like we're adoptees talking about like adoptee justice and advocacy, or we're adoptees talking about like learning about Korean stuff, or we're adoptees talking, whatever. It's like we do kind of all of it because we are who we are, and we bring other people in who are not us, and we just want to celebrate all of it. So I think that's really wonderful.
We are who we are. Hashtag Kesha. Isn't that her song?
I don't know.
That's all I could think of when you said that, bud. Well said,
on that
my good friend.
Yeah, we should cut to food.
Something.
I have like so many more questions, but yeah, we should go to snack.
All right. I mean, if you got more questions.
Well, don't we have to like keep it tight?
I mean, I do got to leave. I can give you an extra 10. So, I mean, what questions do you have?
No,
I'm
it's
excited.
fine.
I'm in it now. So I'm like,
okay,
I'll push off my other stuff.
All right.
That was all really just my question right there.
Actually, yeah, I was gonna say my only question is, how do like when each of you are explaining the show to a non-adoptee, how do you explain it?
That's a great question. So I think what I say is the Janchi Show, or my podcast, is myself and 2 other Korean adoptees host a show about the Korean adoptee experience. We just talk about everything that goes on with that. That's usually, I think, my 10-second pitch.
Yeah, it's your elevator pitch.
Yeah.
Okay.
And the only thing I add to that is also just our culture as well. Maybe potentially stuff that we don't know about. So Korean culture, heritage, adoption experiences, and listening to other people, when we interview them. So
yeah, right on. I guess to complete the triangle, I usually say it's a show hosted by Korean adoptees who just explore the intersectionalities of like our different identities and all those kinds of things, and then also we try a food or drink item at the end. But it's an interesting question because I don't think we've talked about that really explicitly since the beginning of the show. And it's amazing how incredibly similar it still is, even as the show has grown and evolved and changed, and like we have grown and evolved and changed. And I think it just like speaks volumes to the heart of it, and like how like at its core we really just want to be people exploring who we are and celebrating who we are, and then eating a food or drinking a drink at the end. But I was just like, this is a fun brand question. I just wonder if we're still aligned, because I've not, like, obviously we don't have to pitch the show to each other, but I've never heard how you pitch it to other people. I'm like, oh, maybe I should say this thing. Maybe I should say that thing. But like, we basically all say the same thing.
I'm glad that you asked, because at first I was like, I said mine, and then Nathan, and then you went, and I'm like, okay, those were all pretty different. They were, I think, like you said, the core is the same, but they're all different. I'm like, should we all have the same line to say? But then I was like, no, I like that we all say it differently. And then you were like, then you explained it very eloquently that they are pretty much the exact same thing. So I think it works. I think it works for us.
I used a thesaurus.
All right. Well, speaking of thesauruses, let's do one of our favorite segments, the food portion. Wait, do we have more questions?
Nope.
No, but I have no clue what that had to do with a thesaurus.
Through it.
It's a hard left turn.
Food time.
Foodie everywhere.
Yeah, I was going to say, you missed out on that one. I found you. All this foodie.
Food.
I had to edit that.
Oh.
It's corn.
In real time.
It's corn. It's not corn. It's pumpkin. But yes, today we are going to eat some pumpkin chips. I don't know why I had an accent.
These look really good on the bag.
Yeah, they do look really good. And it is pumpkin season, right? It is the fall.
We're in September.
It is. Pumpkin spice is out at
putting pumpkin
your local Starbucks.
Yes, I've had a lot of it. So I think this makes sense to have these. But in addition to that, I think pumpkin is bigger because the only thing that pumpkin is kind of big in the United States for is pumpkin pie and pumpkin spice like drinks and things like that. Nobody really eats pumpkin. Like,
I don't eat pumpkin.
Right? I had pumpkin when I was traveling in Europe and in Australia and stuff. No, that's not a flex. I actually had pumpkin in like my food, like actually chopped up pumpkin pieces, like because it's the squash, right?
Yeah, right. You went to the hotel where the buffet was, and you had the fancy meats. Just
like
admit
if you
it.
had a bone marrow, whatever buffet thing
and
in
it
the
was
Vegas
a buffet
hotel
of marrow. Yes, no.
Oh,
It was a buffet of pumpkin. No, but I've had pumpkin in other countries more than I've had pumpkin here in the United States. So I don't know.
okay.
Have you guys? I mean, do you like pumpkin, like actual pumpkin, not just pumpkin flavoring?
I like.
I honestly can't think of a time where I've eaten just pumpkin that wasn't in a pie. Or that's it, I think.
I was literally about to say I like this one sweet potato dish because it's also orange that we make it at Thanksgiving. So I'm going to say yes, I have eaten pumpkin outside of a pie, and I do like it. I don't know. Perfect. That timing was excellent. You nailed it.
Nailed it.
I'll be here all week. Wait for the cough.
Long.
Oh, goodness. So I don't know who this is even by. Can you read what company makes this?
Yeah, so the brand on the back here says Juicy World.
Juicy World?
Oh.
Yeah, but the corner, up in the corner, it says Tikak Tekak. So I don't know what is what. I'm assuming Juicy World is like, because that feels more like a brand name. I don't know what Tikak Tekak is.
Yeah, I don't know.
R.I.P.
I
Juicy
mean, there's
World.
really not much other than natural, crispy, no additive. So
the
pumpkin
Korean
chips.
here says Habak Bugak. So I don't know.
All right,
Wait,
so
sorry. It
these-
says Hobak Bugak.
All right, so the last thing that we ate was expired by 6 months. This one's only expired by 2. So
July.
I'm assuming. I don't know. I don't know if this says the expiration date, but
to be fair, we took a month off.
that's true. That is very true. I do got to give you that one. So
No
looks like an
one
easy open.
died after our last expired.
Still here,
tasting.
still pushing the envelope. That's what you get with Janchi Boys.
Guys.
I
You know
am a
those
ghost
expiration
right now,
dates are just
so.
like, you know.
You sound
Arbitrary.
like Appa from Kim's Convenience.
It's
Like,
not. It's not real.
Expiration dates are marketing.
You know,
It's not real.
fun.
These kind of look like fried pickles on
What?
first glance.
No, I was gonna say like.
Whoa!
Actually, I was almost gonna say like fried bacon.
I was gonna say just like egg roll or like
Oh, yeah,
wonton
kind-
shell things.
Yeah, that too.
Ooh,
Got a little cinnamon in it or something.
this is very good.
Very crunchy. This one kind of looks like a chicken foot.
I like that. Little cinnamon flavor.
Yeah, the cinnamon
Or a little, some sort of spice.
something. It's way crunchier than I expected. Like this was like fried and then fried 4 more times.
I appreciate it. I won't lie. If you've listened to any of the last 100 episodes, there are certain episodes where things are cold, they're wet, they're not crunchy. And
Yep.
if I'm being honest, I would rather them be crunchy.
Have to get a little ASMR for this.
I don't think that's good ASMR.
Cutting that out.
Not for the video listeners. Yeah, I don't know. It looks like a fried Rangoon wrapper thing, and that's what it tastes like to me.
Fried
But it's
chips.
like a little sweet. So
Yep. It's got salt on it too, I think. Yeah.
I don't really
I
have
wonder if these
a
are-
lot else to say about it. I
I
will
wonder if
say
these are healthy.
I have no idea. Oh yeah,
I
there's
mean-
not an English nutrition label thing.
No,
Maybe it's
there
on the
isn't.
box. Do you have the original box still?
Nope. It actually came individual like this.
All right. Well,
So,
I'm gonna go ahead and jump into summations and ratings. I love the design of this. Like, I think that they're like delicious. They look good. And they got a great crunch, even for being expired, which is nice. I will say, I don't like that the bag. Let me see if I can show this on camera. There's like a bunch of particles inside the bag, which make it real gross to like reach your hand into. Don't like that. I don't like feeling like I need to have chopsticks to eat it without getting dirty fingies. So that does knock it down some points, but overall I really enjoy it. So I'm still going to give it 4.25 out of 5 crab rangoon fried wonton thingies.
Fried wonton pumpkins.
I was going to go right down the middle again and give it a 3.75.
You and your math.
I want to like this more, and I don't know. I think I've been having this trouble with snacks lately. I feel like there are things that I are bumping it down in points, but I can't pinpoint exactly what it is. I think the last couple of things have been like a flavor thing, but I think for this, I don't know. I could eat a lot of these. I really like the crunch, but I feel like there's just something missing. Something missing that would push that up further. So 3.75.
Do you want it to be like more sweet because it like implies a sweetness?
Yeah,
I don't know. Maybe not. I don't think. No, I wasn't reading implied sweetness into it, and I do think that it's appropriately spiced or seasoned.
Yeah. I mean, it's not a pumpkin. I mean, it's not a pumpkin. It is a pumpkin. It's not a sweet potato. So
maybe if I had like a little like icing dip or something,
like cream cheese.
Yeah, maybe it's honestly, maybe a little cream cheese.
Now we're literally just describing like a crab rangoon.
Very true.
That might not be bad. I'm
going to go by my rating.
I'm splitting the ratings between you two. I'll go right at a 4. It's good. It's crunchy. I like the flavor. Something about the crunchiness is almost, like I said, too crunchy for me.
Nope.
Where it's almost not burnt, but it's like, I'm trying to think of an example that's too crunchy. Like bagel chips. I feel like sometimes can be too crunchy.
What kind of chips?
Bagel chips.
Bagel chips?
Never had them.
You ever had a bagel chip?
Like a Triscuit or something?
No, a bagel chip. It's just, they look like little slices of bagel, but they're chips. Huh, okay, go to the store.
I've never heard of them. Go to the store, he says. Just go to the store. They got them.
We all know where the store is. It's fine.
But, I don't know. I like the flavor, so that's why I give it a 4. Yeah. No,
I'm surprised that y'all weren't as like in love with this as I am. This is like besides the bag, I probably would have given it a 5. So
I honestly think it would have went up if there were more available. No,
better give some to Sarah before you eat them all.
You're right, Sarah. Come eat this before I eat them all. I was literally about to finish it, so that's a good call.
Well,
Sarah, give us your quick take rating.
Quick rating.
Your hot take ratings. Just eat one. We're on camera. We're live. Come speak into the microphone. Come on.
She's like, wait. Oh. I didn't know I was going to be on camera.
Oh, she doesn't know that. Give us your ratings. Hurry up.
I like that it just went straight up. It didn't go out at all.
3 out of 5.
They're a little bit too greasy.
Ooh. Greasy? Interesting.
What? They're a little bit too greasy. Too fried tasting.
Too fried tasting, she says.
Okay. I get that actually.
Yeah.
I get that.
That's kind of what I mean. Is
she just walked away with that bag. She's like, they're too greasy. I'm good though.
Too greasy, but I'm taking them with me.
I probably shouldn't finish them.
It must be cheat day.
It's fine.
It's not how that works, but okay.
It's nice of you to share with your wife.
It is.
It's nice of you guys to remind me to share with my wife.
It's nice of us to not have shared with our wives, though, because I already ate all my chips.
I'm taking these upstairs, and my wife will be lucky to get one. I'm sure my kids will be devouring these. So
Nathan has mouths to feed.
Yeah, I should have bought 4 more bags. But
speaking of mouths to feed, you can feed our mouths by going to janchishow.com/store or /support to support us in one of various ways. Another way that you can support us is by going to wherever you get your podcasts and leaving us a rating or review if that is available. If you want to reach out and get a hold of us, you can do that at any of the social media channels at Janchi Show. I don't know why I say at any. You can also send us an email to janchishow@justlikemedia.com. You can also leave us a voicemail at 972-677-8867. We are still taking roof submissions, so please get us your roof submissions.
Well, let's end that thread. Let's just
nope. I'm keeping it alive for the next 100.
For the next 100.
God.
If you want to get a hold of me, you can reach me at Patrick in the World on Instagram and on LinkedIn. KJ?
He's the Asian one. I am at KJ Roki on all the social platforms. I might start blogging like old school, well, quote unquote old school, because I don't really care for any of the social media platforms. But then, of course, I have to write said blog, so probably not. But if I do that, then you'll hear about it at some point.
I just watched you go through the whole process of being a blogger and then immediately quitting blogging. Just in that sentence.
No, you watched me praying about it, and then God said no. And I was like, great, I needed that.
All right. Well, we will be on the lookout for that blog link.
We'll hold you to it, along with your Janchi Show.
Oh, the Janchi Show. Maybe that's what I'll call my blog.
All right. I like that. I like that. Nathan, where do they find you at?
You find me at @NoWalk on Instagram or, of course, on Facebook. That is pretty much it for me. So, great.
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 Before we leave,
good job.
Before we leave, because I do think we should probably be at least mentioning it on all of the last or these next episodes, but we are doing a live show. It will be in Dallas on October 22nd or the weekend of October 22nd. Nathan, we have a potential place secured if you want to have a little bit more of information. We're trying to secure this place to be able to run a couple of the events that are going to be going on for the Janchi Live. Where is that at, Nathan?
That's the Courtyard Marriott in Carrollton and Conference Center. So we will have a discount code for rooms, and we will have more information, of course, on that soon. But there will be a block of rooms, so you can get a discounted rate. And of course, you won't have to drive because the event will be there, and we can try to find ways if we're going to other places to get you there. But we are super excited for this live part 2 and to see everybody. So I hope you all can make it.
Yeah, come on down. Yeehaw.
Is that really what you wanted to say?
That's how he's going to do it. We have lots of things.
I'll
planned.
become like an incredibly just like over the top cowboy for the live show.
Nice.
I'm excited for
wear
that.
a cowboy hat and boots.
Nope, I will never. I wore a cowboy hat one time, never again.
I don't see you in a cowboy hat. Not your look, I don't think.
Really anyone. Honestly, I don't even know if John Cho could pull off a cowboy hat. And that's an attractive man. I don't think I could do it.
I had a cowboy hat.
Point.
I embraced it for a while.
Nathan is trying to pull off a cowboy hat right now. And with that being said, we will see you next week for another episode of the Janchi Show. Oh gosh, I am in control
Patrick
of the
forgot
soundboard.
to do this outboard. Oh no.
Oh, no.
Janchi Heyo!
Oh, perfect.
How embarrassing for you.
It always is. It always is.
Well, for the video people, I'm just going to keep talking so that you have a reason to stick around. Maybe there's some cue cards there. I don't know. Bye.